Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining in. We will just give it a couple of more minutes for more attendees to join in. Thank you. Team, we are just waiting for more people to join in. Please bear with us. Thank you. We'll start in another 1 minute. All right, team. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and thank you for joining in for this interesting event organized by Gen Next. So, today we have Kshitij with us, who is an expert on smart home automation, and that's a topic that he will be covering and sharing his experiences and knowledge with us. So, thank you, Kshitij, for agreeing to conduct this for us. Over to you.
Thank you, Harry. It's great to be here again. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I'm really excited to be presenting to you what for me started out as a hobby and now it's turned out to be a passion. So as you can see from the title over here, we're going to talk about home automation or smart home, right? And how you can get started on your smart home. I speak to a lot of people and they keep asking me that, okay, Kshitij, you keep talking about smart home, smart home, smart home. What is it, right? So let me just show you something real quick and we'll just talk about that. So let's take a look at this infographic. It talks about a smart house, right? And let's take a second to absorb what this is. We see different categories of appliances, equipment, which we have at home. We have security systems at home. Societies have cameras in them. We've got lighting in our homes. We've got air conditioning over here. It says radiator, that's primarily for heating, but that can actually be supplemented for any kind of air conditioning or HVAC system. You've got entertainment at home, your music. And for people like me who love caffeine, we've got our own coffee makers at home. And we just we bleed caffeine rather than anything else. But if you look at all these devices at home, what makes a home a smart home is nothing but the interconnectivity of all these devices. All this smart equipment which you talk about are nothing but regular pieces of equipment which do what they're supposed to do with one key addition. They connect it to the cloud, right? So they are internet connected, and they can communicate with each other. And that's why one of the basic requirements, in addition to what we're going to talk about when you're talking about building your own smart home, is a solid internet connection. And that's why you see a router over there. Every smart home device needs to be connected to the cloud, so it needs internet connectivity. Yes, there are equipment which work locally, but that's beyond the scope of this topic. But that's pretty much what a smart house is in a nutshell. All smart devices interconnected to each other via the cloud, doing things depending on what the scenario is or what the situation is. We'll talk about that. So before we begin, just a little bit about me. I've been with Dell for 15 years. It's been a great journey. But for the past 4 years, I've also been a home automation and IoT hobbyist. It started out when I got my first Chromecast back in 2016 and the Google Home device. I was fascinated how I could just say, "Hey Google, play music on my living room stereo," and it would do that. I then bought my first smart bulb, Philips Hue, and I was fascinated by saying, "Hey Google, change the bulb to red," and it would actually change it to red. Childish, I know, but that's where it started. So from there, I've pretty much gone up on IoT and home automation. I'm a metalhead. I love listening to rock music. But in addition to that, I also love listening to oldies. So my playlist will have anything from 80s rock to 80s pop. So Def Leppard, Metallica, to modern talking. It encompasses over there. I'm a driving enthusiast. I love to go on impromptu drives. And the only thing which I have not done as of yet is integrate automation into my driving, perhaps a fantasy for a later point of time. And lastly, we were talking about caffeine. So I am a home barista. I can whip up a mean espresso, cappuccinos, lattes, you got it. So like I said, caffeine flows through me. But that's about me in a nutshell. And let's just come back to what we're talking about, which is home automation. So this is exactly what we're going to touch base upon. We're not going to go into too much detail. I mean, automation, you start with the basics, you talk about different components and connecting them together, but then security comes into picture, LAN isolation comes into picture, local versus cloud processing comes into the picture, again, beyond the scope of this session. But we're going to talk about what a smart home is. We're going to talk about how it works. We're going to talk about the interesting part, how you can create your own smart home. And probably you don't have to start with just one light bulb. You can actually start with something more interesting. We're going to talk about how you can integrate sensors, temperature sensors, humidity sensors, motion sensors, luminosity sensors to automate parts of your home. We'll then talk about integrating voice assistants. I mean, think about it. One of the coolest parts about home automation is the ability to say something and it just happens. I mean, Alexa, turn on my lights, and boom, it's there. I mean, we envisioned this in 1960s in Star Trek, where Captain Kirk would say, "Computer, lights on," and it's pretty fascinated from there. And that's actually come to reality. Then we'll talk about how we can bring it all together. We'll touch base upon a very brief issue with the whole smart home concept, very, very brief. But then we talk about how we bring it all together using hubs. And then I'll showcase a dashboard which I made on my own to bring my smart home equipment together. And I really hope that you like it. And by the way, any kind of questions you may have, please feel free to drop them in. I'll be more than happy to answer them live if we can. And if not, I'll go ahead and type it in. So stay with me, guys. It's going to be a fun ride. I know I'm excited. So let's talk about the first part. Well, we've already discussed the first part, so we're just going to go over this again. What is a smart home? Simple. If I was to explain it to you very briefly, a smart home is nothing but a home which has different systems. They could be lighting systems, climate control systems, entertainment, security, right? And of course, like I said, you have other equipment, other types of systems as well, but they get together, they communicate with one another. That's the first thing. But they also can work autonomously. So the key factor is autonomously. Home automation should not be manual all the time. I mean, you should have the option of manual override, But other than that, it should be automatic, right? So just to give you an example, I've uh, I've set up my home so that the lights turn on not just in the evening at a specific time. No, that would not work for me completely, because in the winters sunsets occur early and it gets dark earlier as compared to the summers. So if I give a fixed time that turn lights on at 6:30, that doesn't work. It should be smart enough and automatic enough that the lights turn on when it's dark. Now, how does it do that? We'll talk about that. So they should be able to communicate with one another. They should work autonomously, and you should be able to control them anywhere. And when we talk about control, this is how you can control them. You can use a smartphone. Sure, everybody has a smartphone these days, but that is so old school. I mean, taking out a phone, opening up an app, and actually tapping with it. First world problems, I know, but hey, that's where we are. But you can use a smartphone if you'd like to. You can use your voice. Hey, Google, Alexa, they work beautifully. You can use switches or smart switches. So, you can actually connect a smart switch. And again, we'll talk about smart switches as well. But just to give you an idea what you can do with a smart switch, something as basic as when you press the smart switch, either physically or using your phone or using your voice assistant, it can turn on an associated device. Let's say, for example, a fan, or you can take your automation to the next level so that when you press that same switch, the system determines the temperature using a temperature sensor. And that's why you see sensors listed over there. It says that, okay, hey, the temperature right now is just about 27 degrees Celsius, so we can switch on the fan. However, the same system, the next day, the temperature goes up to 31 degrees. The system uses the temperature sensor to detect, hey, it's 31 degrees. I don't want the fan, I need the air conditioning. So you, as being part of that home, haven't changed anything. The system autonomously decides what equipment to turn on. And by the way, it's completely flexible. You can program it to switch on either the fan or the AC or both, right? So as I said, completely autonomous, but you're in control. You can then use schedules. I'll give you my example. Being in tech support, I have rotational shifts, right? And particularly in winters, I've used smart plugs to connect it to connect my water heater, the geyser, and I've set up schedules, and I keep changing these schedules depending on my working shift. That, let's say, for example, I'm supposed to be in the office at 10:30, so I wake up at 9, which means my geyser automatically turns on at 8. It has 1 hour to heat up the water so that by the time I'm up, my hot water is ready. I don't have to break my sleep. I don't have to leave the geyser on before I go to sleep and waste electricity that way. So I use things on schedules. Sensors, we already talked about that. Temperature sensor, you could have a contact sensor as well, so that if the system detects that a door or a window has been left open for a long time, it alerts you that, hey, the door is open. And finally, environmental conditions. I talked about it. So depending on what time you have sunrise, sunset, time of day, or temperature. Now, temperature, you will get it from a temperature sensor, but you also have open services such as Open Weather, which provide limited free access to their API. So that when the open weather services determine what the temperature is, you can then trigger an action as well. That's completely up to you. If you have a temperature sensor, you get accuracy. But if you don't want to invest in a temperature sensor, you can use free services to get the data you want, the input data, and then have your equipment respond accordingly. So this is what a smart home is in a nutshell. Talking about how we're going to create your smart home. Like we talked some amazing stuff. It sounds really cool and amazing here. But how do we actually do it, right? So I'm going to tell you about that. There is an old saying which says that any technology which is sufficiently advanced is indistinguishable from magic. Believe me, when I first saw some automations which some people had done on the web, I was blown away. I mean, completely mind blown. It was so amazing that at the flick of a button, the lights are on and the fans on, the music's playing. It was so amazing. But then when I started getting into more details, I just thought that, hey, this is simple. He used this for the lights. He used a smart plug for the lights. He used a smart speaker for the music. So I'm going to break it down for you. And then after we're done with that, as I said before, I'll show you my own live dashboard, the interface so that you can see it clearly. And then I have a couple of demo videos for you to take away, right? So coming back to how we're going to create our smart home. Okay. So in order to create a smart home, you can use a combination of one of these devices, one or more: smart plugs, smart switches, smart lighting, smart IR blasters, which is an IR blaster is nothing but an infrared emitter, just like you have on your infrared remotes. The only difference is because it's IoT, it's connected to the cloud, so that makes it smart. Anything which is connected to the internet and can do stuff on the basis of an input can be classified as a smart device, right? So you have smart IR blasters, you have sensors, you have voice assistants, you have hubs, right? Now, this is just a basic list of equipment you would need to get started on your smart home. You also have smart appliances these days. Let's talk about a smart AC, which is available these days, pretty inexpensive at the cost of a regular AC, but it'll connect to your Wi-Fi network, and you can control it from anywhere. You can integrate it with any of these systems. But again, that's an appliance, right? So it's not exactly a basic thing which you need. At the very basic level, one or more of these things that you have would get you started on your smart home, right? So let's talk a look about these devices in detail, and we'll take it forward. And again, any questions, please use the Q&A box. Really happy to answer those for you. Okay, so creating the smart home using smart plugs. I'm not going to talk much about what a smart plug is because I'd like you to take a look at the images. It's just like how we have one of those electric adapters, those multiple plugs that we have. A smart plug looks exactly like that. The only difference is that instead of being able to connect multiple devices, you can connect only one device to it, but it smartens up that device. How? A smart plug is an easy way to retrofit any plug-in device you have to make it smart. You could use a lamp, you could connect a TV, you could connect an air conditioner, anything you'd like, just go ahead and plug it into the smart plug. If you're talking about, if you want to connect heavy duty appliances like air conditioners, make sure the plug is rated for that capacity. It should be able to handle 2000 watts. You don't want things melting away, right? So you have plugs and that kind of, which can handle higher loads. As I said, a normal appliance needs to be plugged into the smart plug, and this smart plug in turn connects to the wall, right? So it kind of acts like an intermediary between the wall, the electric source, and the device itself. Now, in addition to just giving you the capability and the option to just turn devices on and off, certain smart plugs will give you enhanced features, and hence the cost might go up. But if you want to measure energy consumption by device, smart plug is a great idea. If you want to talk about scheduling, great idea. And I think when you talk about automation, you do need scheduling. So yeah, you should get one with scheduling features and state customization. Now, let me touch base on state customization. Every country or every place you go to will have problems with electricity. Even the most advanced place in the world can have electric failures, and that one electric failure, electric outage can cause damage to your equipment, or at the very least be an inconvenience, right? So let's say, for example, I've got my TV plugged in and there is some sort of brownout happening, which causes the power to cut out and come back in, cut out and come back in. This can damage my appliance. But if I have a smart plug with state customization, I can control the state of the smart plug after power has been restored. So I can configure the smart plug that, hey, in case there's a power outage and then power is restored, do not turn the device on again, leave it off, right? I can then use my phone or voice to turn the device on manually, but when the power is restored, it will stay off. Or if you have a device like a geyser or a water heater, which like I did, I've left state customization so that whenever power is restored, the device should not stay off or on. I wanted to retain the last state. So when my water was being heated, and let's say there was a power outage, and if power resumes, the smart plug will automatically supply power to the device. On the other hand, if the water was not being heated, that is to say the smart plug was off, and that's when the power went off and then returned, it'll stay off. So that's called state customization. So depending on these features, you might see prices go up and down, but it's a good idea to have a smart plug with these features because then you can get into more detailed and more precise automations. So that's what smart plugs are. All right, and okay, I do have a question already. It says, any recommendations of smart plugs which work over Wi-Fi without internet? Right now, my smart lights and fans do not work without an internet connection. There's my, yep. That's a good question. Actually, I wouldn't want to recommend one brand over the other But just to answer your question, Kailash, when you talk about smart plugs, I think if you get any smart plug based on the Toya platform, that's an open platform, I'm sure you're aware of it, and you kind of connect it with Home Assistant as a hub, we'll talk about that in a bit. I think that'll give you the most flexibility. But then again, there are quite a few other plugs which do work offline. I don't recall any particular brand. I'll get back to you on that. But any plug based on the Toya's platform should work offline. Okay, so that's on smart plugs. All right. All right. Okay. Now, next, after smart plugs, let's quickly just see a video. All right. Now, this is a kind of a support video from a popular plug manufacturer, and it just goes to showcase how simple it is to actually implement a smart plug. This video just uses a lamp to show you how you can integrate a smart plug. So let me just get that started for you.
Hi, I'm Dan, and we're going to show you how to automate the lighting in your home with this DIY quick tip and our Wi-Fi smart plug. So once you've figured out which lights you're going to automate in your home, you need to set up the Wi-Fi smart plug. So go to the outlet where the lamp is plugged in, simply unplug it, plug in the Wi-Fi smart plug, and then we're going to wait for this light to start blinking orange. So once that Wi-Fi smart plug is flashing orange, you're going to go over to your router, you're going to turn it around, you're going to press what's called a WPS button. Essentially what that does is it opens itself up for a small amount of time for devices to connect to the home network. You then come back to your Wi-Fi smart plug, press the button on the side, you can see now it's green, which is good. You then plug your lamp back in, and you're now good to go. So now that you've set up your Wi-Fi smart plug, you can set schedules by hour or by day, or you can open up the app at any time and turn devices on or off. Thanks for watching.
Pretty simple. So that's how you can, at a very basic level, set up a smart plug. However, most smart plugs these days have app-based support interfaces, so you don't really need to do WPS anymore. Just launch the app, it'll automatically detect the new plug, and it'll just ask you to enter your Wi-Fi credentials, and it'll then connect to the Wi-Fi network, and you'll be able to control it. So that's smart plugs. We'll now talk about smart switches. Now, take a look at the pictures over here. I've got different kinds of smart switches. Now, at the base level, as I said, a smart switch is nothing but a replacement for your regular switch, but it gives you the capability to control it either using your phone or voice assistant or any other interface. But then you'll have different kinds of Wi-Fi switches. The first image you see it's actually a Philips dimmer switch. It's a wireless device, completely removable. It's like a remote, but it only works with Philips products. So that is one thing. And we talk about interoperability in a while as well. The second picture is what's known as a retrofit smart switch, right? Normally in an electrical panel, you have your lights and fans connected to the switch. In such a case, this little device is small enough to fit into your electrical box, and it sits between your fans and lights and the actual switches themselves. So when you look at the switch, when you look at your switchboard, nothing seems different. It works like a normal switch, but it also gives you the added smart capability. And the last thing which you see is a complete switchboard replacement. So you can just take out your existing switchboard and fit the smart switch in, and you're good to go, right? So let's talk about smart switches. As I said, smart switches are nothing but devices which will replace your wall switches. These switches can be replaced individually, or you can replace the entire switchboard. Some smart switches are retrofit devices which work in conjunction with their existing switches, as we just talked about. Smart switches work like normal wall switches, but also have the capability of being controlled by your voice, smartphone, or sensors. And lastly, smart switches may also allow you to control fan speed physically at the switch. So the switchboard itself would have a control, either a touch sensor or a regular regulator knob to control the fan speed, or you can use your voice as well. So you could say something like, Alexa, change fan to 50% or change fan to 3, and accordingly, the fan speed would get adjusted. Some switches also provide light dimming and scene changing capability. A scene is nothing but the state of multiple devices. So let's say, for example, during the summertime, let's say evenings in summer, I want that when I press the smart switch, My fan should come on at level 3. From 0 to 4 are the settings. I want it to come on at level 3, and my light should turn on as well, right? So this is a scene. I should be able to configure my automation system that I push that one button and it should know the time of day, either the time of day, or it should detect the luminosity by using a light sensor and be smart enough to switch on either the fan or the light. So that's essentially what a scene is. So some switches may give you the option of adjusting scenes, some may not. So depending on what brand and what option you go in for. So we'll just showcase a small video which shows the first hue dimmer switch and how you can use the same switch to change different light scenes, right? So let me just bring that up for you. So this is the hue dimmer switch. And as I said, it works only with hue lights. Press 1, normal lights, dimming control. Press again, light dimming again, different scene, press again, color. Then press again, a different set of lights are controlled, different brightness, and then we plug it back into the onto the wall, right? Just give me one quick moment here, guys. I'm so sorry. So you plug them in, and so with this particular device, you can only change the scene. And as I said, this controls only your Philips lighting. By default, there are ways around it. We'll talk about that later, but that's smart switches. Again, any questions, you have the Q&A and the chat box, happy to answer them. So 2 categories covered. Next, we'll talk about smart lighting, okay? Now, a lot of people ask me that, if I talk about smart lighting, it's gonna be very expensive. I'm gonna have to change my entire light fitting. No, not really, you wouldn't have to do that. What do we call the device that is retro? Okay, Mayank asks a question. What do we call the device that is retrofitted in the regular devices to make it a smart switch? Look, Mayank, there's no specific title for it. At the base level, it consists of 2 boards. The first one is the high voltage or the AC side, where you can plug in your electrical inlet, the 230 volt and neutral switches. It also has a couple of relays, depending on how many devices you can connect to it. And that's where you can plug in your lights and fans. The other end of it is the DC side, which actually controls the Wi-Fi, which actually houses the Wi-Fi chip. Most common is the ESP8266, if I remember right. And that is the device which connects it to the Wi-Fi network. So I think you could just call it a PCB. But if you're looking to purchase, you could just go ahead and search for Smart Switch Retrofit. You'll find a lot of companies. I'm using one by I think it's a Bangalore-based company called Imagine Technologies, if I remember right, and they work beautifully. I've also used Smartify and a lot of Toya-based smart light switches as well. So just search for Smart Switch Retrofit, and you'll get the answers there. Okay, coming back to the topic, smart lighting. So smart lighting, as I said, a lot of people have the thing that it's going to be very expensive for me to switch out my light fixtures. Not really. Because you have the option of either purchasing a smart bulb, which can fit into your regular B22 sockets. That's what smart bulbs are for. Or if you don't want to do that, in that case, yes, you might want to change the fitting. But what you could probably do is just remove your regular tube light fixture and put in an LED batten, which is nothing but kind of a rod which is the same size as your tube light, but it has an LED strip inside of it, along with a smart circuit, so it connects to Wi-Fi. So you can do that. So as you can see over here, smart lighting typically consists of smart bulbs, though there is increased penetration of smart LED strips as well as smart battens. Smart bulbs are direct replacements and can be installed in the standard E27 or B22 bulb holder. We in India have B22, that's the one with the 2 pins at the side, but a lot of fixtures these days are coming in with screw-on type bulb, so that's E27, but you have both options available, very commonly available. Smart battens would require replacing the entire light fixture. Smart LED strips can come mounted on adhesive-backed flexible PCBs and can be installed to provide accent lighting. So smart bulbs, smart battens, LED strips. You can actually mount them on a cabinet, and you'll see in the next video, you'll see my cabinet or my bookshelf over there, which has an LED mounted inside of it. And finally, smart lights are typically dimmable and may also provide color and temperature changing capabilities. So I do have one more question here. Okay, hey, Khalid. All right, just one moment. All right, so that's what smart lighting is all about. You'll have your smart bulbs, you have smart battens, which is nothing but a replacement for our tube lights, and you have smart LED strips. LED strips are low power devices, remember this. While they plug into your regular wall outlet, they are low power devices, so you really can't use them much for illumination. You can use them for accent lighting, right? So combine an LED strip with a batten or a smart bulb or multiple bulbs, and you can create the perfect ambience for you. So let me just go ahead and show how I've implemented my, just give you a small example of lighting in my home, in my room. So let me just start that up for you. All right, so with this example, we want to demonstrate how we can use smart lights to enjoy a home theater experience at home. So all we do is say, Alexa, let's watch a movie.
Switching to movie mode. Enjoy the show.
All right, so interesting. I hope you found that interesting. But in this example, obviously, we're not just using lights, because you would have noticed that once I gave that voice command, the system also powered on my TV and the home theater. And that's actually a smart IR blaster, which it used there. But what I wanted to showcase is that the starting is that my lights are on in the regular white color scene, right? And I give one command, because I want to watch a movie and I want the theater ambience coming in. Obviously, we can't go out these days, so bring the theater to your home. So the lights first change from the bright white to a golden color, stays there for a few seconds while the home theater and TV turned on. That gives you enough time to pick up the smart remote and choose either Netflix or whatever application you want to view a movie from. Once that's done, you can keep doing that, but after 30 seconds, the golden lights go off. You would have also noticed that the cabinet on the left side went off, because we just want those red lights so that your eyes can kind of get acclimatized to the low light. And after 10 seconds of just being red, they go out completely, and you can, of course, you can enjoy your movie at home. So that's how you use smart lights in a practical way. We do have a couple of more chats coming in. Okay, Snig, hi Snigdha. So you're saying that you've not tried with lights, but with Alexa and smart plugs. Yeah. So as I said, smart home at the very basic level, you connect your voice assistant with smart plugs, but then you can also you can add on more devices to make it really amazing. And you know what? I don't want to blow my own horn, but when we come toward the end of the session and you see those videos, you'll actually see the true power. And by the way, it's just what I've done. There are some amazing automations out there which people are able to do, but you'll be able to see what smart homes can do for you. So let me move on from smart lighting. We will now talk about the infrared blasters. So you saw in that video that when I gave that command, my home theater and my TV turned on. That's because they use IR remotes, and a smart IR remote is nothing but an IR device which is connected to the web and can turn your devices on and off. So you have different kinds. On the right-hand side, on the top right, you can see what's the Logitech Harmony remote, which in addition to being an infrared blaster also has its own remote. And by the way, that's a device which I have. It's amazing. Unfortunately, Harmony has discontinued this product. So if you can get it somewhere at a good price, it's a good idea to pick it up. You then also have other universal remotes like what you see on the right side. That's the Broadlink RM Pro. It's an amazing remote which is compatible with a lot of platforms, be it your Google Home, be it your Alexa, be it Home Assistant, be it Siri, your HomeKit. I'm sorry, it's very much compatible. So it's a good device. But let's come back to what IR devices are. That infrared blasters are nothing but IR devices which connect to your Wi-Fi network. They emit and receive IR signals to control any IR device. Anything which has infrared on it can be controlled. TVs, set-top boxes, home theaters, air conditioners. Even if you have an older device, okay, let's look at the second part. Most infrared blasters have an accompanying program with a database of common household appliances, which enables seamless control of IR devices via voice, schedule, or sensor. So all it's saying is that that I'm pretty sure every one of us knows that I can't use a Panasonic TV remote to control, say, a Sony TV, or I can't use an AC remote to control my home theater, right? The frequencies are different, the manufacturers are different, the IR codes are different, right? So most of these IR devices would actually come in with a database of the most common household devices. But what if you have a legacy equipment? Or for that matter, what if you have a brand new spanking home theater which is so new that the IR device, that the device manufacturer does not have the codes for it yet? What do we do then? Well, that's the beauty of smart IR devices. You can actually teach them the codes. So but I will need the original remote. And all I do is that I open up the application for that IR blaster, and I tell it to go into learning mode, and then I tell it that, okay, I want to teach you the command to power on the device. So I press the on button on the software. It'll then ask me to point my remote at the IR device and press the on button on the remote. So basically the on signal is being sent to the IR blaster. The IR blaster learns that frequency, assigns it to the power on command in its own software. And then going forward, you can use the IR device to control your equipment. So that's why it's an infrared emitter and a receiver. It's basically a transceiver, a transmitter, and a receiver. You can teach it new equipment or legacy devices, and that's why they don't really, go out of style. In case an appliance is not in the database, we already covered that. Now, some infrared blasters also have a temperature and humidity sensor built in for more powerful automations. At the base level, you just need that IR device. So if I take a look at the Broadlink IR device at the bottom right, it's just the infrared device, but it comes with an attachment, right? Instead of a regular USB power cable, you get a unique USB power cable, which has a sensor built into it, a temperature and a humidity sensor. And that sensor will give you values for the current ambient temperature and humidity, which you can use in further automations. We will look at that when I talk about the dashboards. Okay, so Zamir says, hey, thanks for the session, very informative, thank you. How can I enhance my home security system with home automation? Zam, we can actually connect on this at a separate time because that's beyond the scope of this. But security on home automation is something which I am working on myself. One thing which I will tell you is that if you really want to improve security, because you know that IoT devices are non-secure. So the one thing which you want to do at the very least, if your router supports it, is set up VLANs. Separate one VLAN with the other. All IoT devices go to one VLAN. The other equipment goes onto the other VLAN, and they're isolated from each other. If not, you could probably get a second router, but that's more complex. But let's connect with this one at a later point in time. Drop me an email and I'll be happy to talk this with you. Okay, so that was the infrared devices. Now, moving along, let's talk about how we integrate sensors. Now, I talked about different sensors. We have temperature sensors, humidity sensors, the most common. You've got motion sensors, very common. Luminosity sensors, not that common. Smoke detectors, contact sensors, the list goes on, right? So let's see what they are. They're very small devices, right? You can see on the right side, they're pretty small. You can just mount them anywhere. Sensors are the eyes and ears of your home, informing you and the other smart devices of changes in status 24/7. By the way, in case you're wondering how you can plug the sensors in or where you should plug them in, these sensors, they're so low powered, they just use a AAA battery and that lasts for around 2 to 3 years. So no problem over there. Sensors can take control of your lights and appliances, so you can customize how and when to control devices around the home. Sensors can be of various types. We talked about that: light, water leak, temperature, humidity, smoke, contact, etc. a smart home system will use these sensors to trigger an automation. For example, switching on the lights at night when entering a room. So let's say you're returning home. All of us night shift workers, we come home at night. And I've done this. You'll see this in the video which comes up next. I opened my door and I plugged in my motion. I put in a motion sensor right there. And I walked in and it would switch on only the living room lights. It didn't switch on any of the lights because I didn't want my family to be disturbed, right? The good thing, the smart thing about the sensors is that it would work only at night. So you can program that between, say, 11 p.m. and 6 a.m. is the only time I want the sensor to be active. Otherwise, do nothing. So you can program the sensor that way. Second example, commanding a smart vacuum to start its cleaning routine when it's night and when no motion is detected. Xiaomi has come up with, it has launched a smart vacuum last year in India. Pretty expensive at around 24K, but I know of 2 people who bought it and they're all raves about it, right? And the reviews online are pretty good too. So hey, if that works for you, go right ahead and get it, and then integrate it with your automation system. Let it do the cleaning at night when you're asleep, right? So that's what the condition is. The vacuum should start its routine. The smart device should start its cleaning routine at night. That's one condition. And second, when no motion is detected. Because let's say you're having a late night party and people are running around at, say, till 12 a.m. or 1 a.m. You don't want the vacuum cleaner coming out then. So smart homes should adapt around you rather than making you adapt around it. And last example, triggering an alert and or alarm in case a door or window has been left open. So that's what sensors can do at the very basic level. You can combine different kinds of sensors to make more powerful automations. It is super exciting, all right? But we'll come to that, and let's take a look at an example here.
So as you saw in this particular example, I just walked into the house and all the lights were off. However, we have a motion sensor right over here. You can't see it, it's kind of dark, but we have a motion sensor which detects motion during night hours, and the moment it detects motion, it'll trigger the smart lights over here. So that's how you can integrate motion sensors into your smart home.
This was a good example case, and this is what I was talking about earlier, that when you used to reach home at night, when I used to reach home at night, this is how it would work. Currently, what I've done for sensors is in your washroom, you could mount a sensor on the roof, connect a smart retro switch to it, and program it. And this is what I've done right now. It works seamlessly every single day. If I walk into the washroom during the day, it switches on the exhaust fan only. And if I walk into the washroom at night, it switches on the exhaust fan and the lights. And finally, when it detects no motion, now this is the second part. We've been talking about how motion sensors detect motion. You can actually use a motion sensor to do something when it doesn't detect motion as well, right? So the third configuration is that when there is no motion detected in the washroom, switch off the lights and fans. Easy peasy, right? So that's how you can integrate motion sensors to do stuff. Okay, so that is about motion sensors. Next, we'll talk about voice assistants. This part is something which I'm pretty sure you guys are familiar with because the companies have been advertising them. Amazon Alexa and Google Home are slugging it out with Apple HomeKit coming in as well. So let's just talk about what home assistants are, because most of us are just used to saying something like, Alexa, tell me a joke. I know my dad uses that command 3 or 4 times a day, every day. Or, my mom just asks Alexa to play music. That's pretty much what it started out with. But now they've gotten used to switching on the lights and switching off the lights. So, people adapting to technology. But let's talk about voice assistants. A smart home should make things easier and fun, just the way my dad likes it. A lot of times, using a phone may not be the most intuitive way of getting things done. Think about it. You're coming home, from shopping and your hands are full and you want to switch on your smart lights. You don't have any motion sensor as of yet. Okay, I need my phone to switch on the lights. So, left hand full, right hand full. Oh, darn, right? So that's when you can probably use a voice command to turn on the lights. Voice assistants can take integration of smart homes to the next level and make things more natural. Now, this point is kind of debatable because there was one time when I absolutely loved saying, "Hey Google, turn on the lights," or "Alexa, turn on the lights." It's easy. It's great way of interacting with my tech, but I would hardly call it natural simply because of one thing. I have to use that wake word. Hey Google or Alexa is the wake word which I have to use all the time. So voice assistants still have some way to go where they can kind of predict human behavior. And when somebody says lights on, just this phrase, lights on, they should know when I'm talking to the device and when I'm not. Long way to go, but with natural NLP coming in, I'm sure that'll work. But again, topic for a different day. And last point, voice assistants are available as smart speakers and smart displays. Yeah, you can see that over there. So let's see what smart assistants, voice assistants can do. They can be used to create a reminder, set an alarm, add items to your shopping list, help with navigation. Very useful. I used it a lot when we were, before COVID hit. So I use that a lot. Play the news, tell you about the weather, control your smart equipment, set scenes, create an ambience, and play your favorite music. Pretty self-explanatory. I'm sure we've been doing that. So let's take a look at an example here.
Okay, Google, turn on the bedroom lights.
Bedroom lights powering on.
Okay, Google, activate the relax in the bedroom.
You got it, activating the relax.
Hey Google, how long will it take me to get to Noida?
With light traffic, it will take 55 minutes to drive to Noida. You can see the full route on your phone.
Hey Google, wake me up at 3 p.m.
Alright, your alarm's set for 3 p.m.
Hey Google, remind me to go to work at 4 p.m.
Okay, I'll remind you at 4 p.m.
Hey Google, play my music.
Home theater starting in music mode.
So this is how you can actually utilize your voice assistants to do more than just tell you a joke, right? So they're convenient, no doubt about it. But as I said, they still have they have some way to go. But if you combine your voice assistants with your sensors and other automations, that kind of makes things manageable, and it works out pretty well, right? So that was voice assistants. Now let's talk about bringing it all together. So just to recap, we talked about smart plugs, talked about smart switches, we talked about IR blasters, we talked about sensors. How do you bring them all together, right? We use hubs for that. So just to give you an idea, as I showed you that, as I told you that the Philips Hue remote, for example, the dimmer switch, it can only control Philips Hue bulbs, right? So that's pretty much, you're locked into that particular ecosystem. Now, this has been the status for a while. The Zigbee protocol was created to enable low power devices to communicate with each other, but unfortunately, it didn't really become standardized. Kind of like the VHS Betamax wars of the 1980s, if you're aware of them. So what companies like Amazon, Google, and the Zigbee Alliance and others did is they came in together, and they started working on a protocol called Connected Home over IP. So it basically works on the IP protocol rather than Zigbee or Z-Wave, and it is supposed to enable interoperability between different devices. The consortium is now called Matter, but they are still in its nascent stages. So that's why you still need hubs to connect different devices together and bring them together. So let's see what I'm talking about. The biggest problem in the smart home industry is that lack of standards to allow for interoperability. And of course, I spoke about Connected Home over IP and Matter. These initiatives do exist. They are in their nascent stages. If things go well, we can expect things to improve in terms of standardization of smart home devices. The lack of standard means that devices from one manufacturer cannot work with the other. Philips is the classic example. because they're the most popular one. The irony is that Philips uses the Zigbee protocol, the Philips Hue system. It's an amazing system, by the way. The bulbs are high quality, the hubs are high quality, but the thing is, they use the Zigbee protocol, which originally was made for interoperability, and that kind of defeats the purpose of that. So it's kind of going in a loop, but that's the way it is. I've got like 3 hue dimmer switches, okay? And I can't use them to connect, to control my Halonix bulbs. Philips Hue bulbs are expensive. The color changing bulbs will set you back somewhere about 3K or 3,200. Wherein a Halonix smart bulb, which is based on the Toya platform, by the way, and hence is Wi-Fi versus Zigbee, costs just about 500 or 600. Now, because they use different protocols, Philips is using Zigbee and the Toya platform uses Wi-Fi, you have that interoperability thing. And that's where the hubs come in, right? A smart home hub will overcome these limitations by integrating most existing home protocols. Zigbee is very popular. Z-Wave is very popular in the US. Wi-Fi and Bluetooth Low Energy are, are the more popular protocols used by different manufacturers. You have others like Insteon and a few others, which I don't recall right now, but these are the more popular protocols. And if you get a hub, basically they have these radios, Zigbee, Z-Wave, BLE, Wi-Fi radios built in, and they then connect to the cloud services of these different devices and hence allow interoperability. So if I have them connected, I press the on button on my Hue remote, the hub will see, okay, the Hue remote on button is pressed, and I've configured the device on the hub that when this on button is pressed, switch on my Halonix bulb. So it kind of acts as an intermediary between the two, and that's how we can get them to work, right? So that's what hubs are all about. I do have a question. Okay. Popular hubs include Samsung SmartThings, Habitat Elevation, Wink Hub, or even a simple Raspberry Pi running on Home Assistants. We talked about interoperability. Now, another advantage of hubs is that hubs will enable local processing, and hence you don't need to go to the cloud. So your privacy is taken care of that way. So that's the basic need of a hub. You bring different manufacturers together and they can work together to give you your automations. So let me show you a live example of a dashboard, which I've made using these hubs. A dashboard is nothing, but it helps control smart home devices when you have too many devices. It allows you to place all devices in one group and control them using a touch interface. All you need is a cheap tablet and a hub, right? So let me, rather than just reading this thing out, let me just show you what I'm talking about. And this is the one, and this is the one which I'm using at home. This is my bedroom's control system. I'm using Hue lights. So what you see over here, cinema, daylight, energize, focus, etc., are different color scenes of the lights themselves. Balcony switches on and off, and balcony lights. Bookshelf, wall plug, sconces, right? My wall sconces. I can control my media server from here, my TV, my home theater, my bathroom, my bookshelf lights individually. On climate control side, I have my fan. It's on right now. I click, it goes off. I click, it turns on. You can see it. I'll show you a video which explains all this. Fan, purifier. Now, weather, radar, and climate don't really control devices, but let me just switch them off. Let's see weather. You can see the weather report where I am. Radar. Weather radar is nothing. It connects to the windy.com API and shows you the weather radar for your area. You can see the forecast on an hourly basis, and you can make your plans accordingly. And climate is nothing but a 24-hour trend of the different sensors in my room. So this has been my temperature trend in my room right now. Similarly, humidity, and this is AQI. Now I've got automations running so that if the air quality goes up above, say, 60, my air purifier turns on automatically, right? If it goes below 40, it goes off automatically. Over here, you see the current indoor temperature, indoor humidity, AQI, it's only 7, so it's pretty healthy. Outdoor temperature is based not on the sensor value, but it comes in from the Open Weather API. Similarly for humidity and real feel. Now for air conditioner, it's on right now. So you can see it's cooling. I can control the temperature, which I wanted to cool till, after which it'll go off. And then of course, my music. I use Spotify. So I can choose my Spotify playlist. I can then choose which device I want to play it on, bedroom, Echo Plus, the Echo Show 8, on the Fire TV, or in the living room. So this is the bedroom interface. We'll just show you the demo videos on how these things actually work. So that's pretty much it, how you can use different smart devices and bring them together. Let's just go ahead and quickly show you the demo video. Now I'm going to ask you to bear with me because this video is around 10 minutes and we're already running short of time, but I would really love for you to see this. So if you could just give me 5 more minutes, let's just get this started. And by the way, this video, you can see the interface is kind of different than what you saw because this was the very first day I made this dashboard. That was around a month and a half ago, so it's evolved, but the core functionality remains the same. And in this video, you will see how when I click something or when I tap something on the tablet, how the control happens. So without further ado, I'm taking away 11 minutes of yours. So please bear with me.
All right. Hi, everyone, and welcome to this, to a very interesting, how can I'm just excited, and I may not be able to formulate sentences, but welcome to a very exciting execution to the whole smart home concept. Those of you who know me know that I've been into smart homes, voice assistants, sensors, and quite a bit. So I had a few days off, and I decided to work on creating a complete dashboard, which you can use to control your smart home. Now, as an example, what you see over here is a dashboard which will control every aspect of my bedroom. We're using an open source software. It's completely free to use, and anybody can integrate their smart home equipment with this particular software, and this gives you this lovely dashboard which is completely functional. Now, when you talk about a smart home, or let's talk about this smart room. Most rooms would have, this is a bedroom, right? So what do you have over here? You have lights, you have a fan, you have air conditioners, you have a TV, and you have a music system and a home theater. So this particular dashboard here controls every aspect of it, right? So now just to give you an idea, the hardware in this room is as follows. For lights, we're using Philips Hue lights, and for fan, we have a regular ceiling fan, which is connected to a smart switchboard, which is right over here. The air conditioner is a regular LG VRF unit, which is mounted, and we control that as well. We also have temperature sensors and humidity sensors in the room, so you can see the trends of temperature changes and humidity changes for the past 24 hours, right? But then those sensors also give us a capability of automatically controlling our air conditioner using the air conditioner panel. So let's discuss each of these panels one at a time, okay? The very first one, we have lights and scenes. Now, since we're dealing with a Philips Hue product, we have different scenes available with us. So let's just do this. Let's switch off all the lights. Ta-da! All lights are off. And let's say when you come in and you want a daylight white theme, right? So you just click on execute next to daylight white, and you'll see that the Philips Hue lights have gone into well, I'm not sure if you can make out over the video, but they're a yellowish white theme, right? Now, there's a scene called concentrate, so let's click on concentrate, and there you go. The colors have now changed into a more yellow, warmish theme, right? Now you can then create more themes. So for example, you can have a galaxy theme, which is nothing but completely dark and just red indents over here. So I kind of use it when I want to listen to music just before going to bed. You have a movie theme, which is nothing but a small other play on the galaxy theme, right? You have a relaxed theme, which makes all the lights go really warm yellow. It's good. It's great in the winters. And the theme here, which I've called winter, is kind of a more dull, subdued lights. You'll notice that the top lights have gone off. Just the LED strips behind the TV, on the cabinet, and on the desktop lamp are on, but everything else is off, right? So you can control every aspect of the lights over here. So switch off. All lights have gone off. So for the purpose of this video, I've been enjoying the winter light scheme, so we'll just go ahead and use the winter light scheme. Now, the second aspect is the climate control. Now, the climate control card only has fan on and fan off. I haven't worked out the ability to control speed as of yet, because the software which controls this particular switchboard, which in turn controls the fan, there's no direct link over here, so I've had to find a workaround over there, so I'll get to it. But right now, for example, the fan, I switched it off while we were talking earlier, but it's off. So I'll go ahead and click on execute next to fan on. Now, because I'm using a workaround, it'll take a minute, it'll take a few seconds, but then the fan goes on. And similarly, you click on execute next to fan off, the fan will go off. So, so the fan part is there, right? Below the fan, you have the current temperature and the current humidity settings. Well, these are the settings. These are actually values pulled up by the temperature and humidity sensor. Now, here's the fun part. Right next to climate control, do you see where it says air conditioner? Right now it's on. So you can also see that the AC is on. You can see the vents are open and the light, you can see the green light glowing over there. So let's do this. Let's quickly go ahead and switch off the air conditioner. So the AC has gone off. You can see the power, the lights have gone off and the vents have shut. So this works perfectly. And this is more than just a simple on and off control. I'll switch it on right now. Now, the figures which you see, 27.3, the one in the large figure, that's the actual temperature of the room as determined by a temperature sensor. And where it says 27 cooling, that is the target temperature, which means I have targeted this room to come down to 27 degrees, right? And that's what I want the room to be at. And so what happens is, now let's see, I can adjust the temperature over here. So now that I've moved the temperature to a value, the target temperature, the temperature which the room should be, I moved it to a value, I changed it to a value which is greater than the current temperature, which means the room is already cool. The room is at 26.9 degrees, wherein my target temperature was 28. So the AC has gone to an idle mode. You'll notice that the blue highlights are still there, but the unit has actually switched off. So now what's going to happen is the current temperature, the moment it rises and goes above 28.5, the AC will automatically trigger on. So let me just go ahead and decrease the target temperature to say 24. And you'll notice that the AC mode has changed to cooling, and the AC is now powering on again. So this works very well. Now, so we've got the light dashboards and we've got the fan dashboards, the climate control dashboard. Now, what you see here is an exception, is just a weather report. It's giving you the current weather outside and the weather forecast. Exceptional is just a term which the system uses to put in to show a weather which it doesn't have the proper information for. So if there's any kind of exception. But during the day when it's hot, it displays sunny, rainy, whatever, right? It takes the weather from the Open Weather API. Next, we have the climate trend and the humidity trend. Now, the same sensor which is giving us the temperature and humidity values over here is used for these charts. These charts give you the temperature and humidity trends over the past 24 hours. Let me just clear this out. Here we go. So the upper graph is for temperature, the lower graph is for humidity. Depending on real-time humidity and temperature, the chart will update. So you get to have a historical idea of what the climate in the room has been like, and you can automate systems that way. You can create an automation where, say, the room temperature, well, that's already taken care of by the air conditioner, but you can actually have automations done that in case the temperature fall, or if the humidity, theoretically, let's say the humidity falls below a certain value, you can then connect a smart switch which will turn on your humidifier. Or in the case of winters, you can say that if the temperature falls to a certain low value, it will trigger your heater. By the way, the same way how we have air conditioner over here, this LG unit is actually a heating cum cooling unit. So I can actually configure it during the winters that instead of cooling, it changes to a heat mode. So we cool over there. The last thing we have is the music card. Now, as I mentioned, this room does have this room does have a TV and a home theater. Now, I use Spotify for music, and as you can see, that's the card we have over here, and I've got the different playlists. Now, the way this card is configured is whenever you tap any of these playlists, except the last one which says stop, the system is going to turn on your home theater. It's going to turn on your Fire TV stick. That's the device it uses to play. It's going to connect your Spotify to the Fire TV stick and then play the selected playlist on the Fire TV stick. So let's say, for example, right now there's nothing playing, right? Here's the TV and the home theater is below it. It's completely off. Okay, so let's say I want to listen to Chill Listening or Kickin' Country. Execute. Give it a minute. TV is still off, but the home theater is turned on. And that's loud. Let me just use the remote. But so it's playing the country playlist. Now I can choose to pause the music from here, or I can use this remote, which connects to my home theater. It's a smart remote in itself. I can choose to go to the next track, or if you want, I can start a different playlist. So let's say 80s rock anthems. Give it a second, and I started playing the playlist, which is 80s rock anthems. Now, once I'm done listening to music, or if I'm, say, heading out of the room, I can just choose stop playback. Stop playback will stop the playback on Spotify. You can see that the control has changed, and it has also switched off the home theater. So this is the interface, right? And it is it's an old cheap tablet which I had lying around. So it's gonna be I'm gonna leave it like this. It's gonna be plugged in forever. And here we have the bedroom control. Now I'm also working on other controls as well. So living room, lounge, HVAC control. So this is the same cooling gauge. This is the heating gauge, right? But I've not put it over there. So I'm really excited with the prospects over here. But the entire bedroom is now automated. I can do one more thing. The bathroom here has a geyser which is connected to a smart plug. And I can probably create another category which says bathroom or miscellaneous or whatever. And I can actually enable the option. I can enable an option that I can switch on the geyser from here as well. So that's what I wanted to showcase over here. And I'm really excited. And I hope you enjoyed this one too. Thanks. Bye.
So thanks for your patience, guys. And I'm sorry that was long, but I just wanted to showcase to what level you can actually go when you talk about integrating automations. And I think this last example, it uses nothing else except for the smart plugs and switches and lighting system which we discussed before. So that's smart homes for you, or rather, this is smart homes for me. I hope you found the session helpful and useful. I'm so sorry it went above time, but I just hope you found it useful. If you do have any kind of feedback, feel free to get in touch with me, Kshitij_Mathur@dell.com. Happy to discuss, happy to collaborate. And yeah, that's where we are. So thank you once again for your time. And you have a good rest of the day ahead.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Kshitij. That was really interesting and kind of mind-blowing. Thank you so much. Team, apologies for overpassing the committed time, but I think I hope everybody found it interesting and you'll probably be utilizing the technology more. Thank you so much for your attendance today and your time. We will be sharing the recording link, and if you have not joined GenNext yet, please go ahead and join. The link is in the emails and in the chat as well. Thank you so much. You have a great day and a great weekend. Stay safe. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.